Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dallas Social Toastmasters. This is February 3rd of 2022, and we are all online tonight because of inclement weather outside. And as I posted in the group this morning that said, now I feel pretty good about it, because I didn't feel good about calling it at 65 degrees and sunny, but I called it this morning at about 11 a.m. with all of the stuff on the ground, and they said, it's about time. Yeah, I agree. I just couldn't believe at 65 and sunny I was going to have to call it, but we did the right thing. We are all at home. Couple of quick things, bookkeeping. So we are on Zoom. If you are not used to Zoom by now, something's probably wrong, but just in case, we normally keep everything in speaker view for the most part. And you have a view button up to, usually to your upper right, in order to select speaker or gallery view if you want to see everybody. You can also look at the participants on the side, and I will, if I notice a lot of noise, I will probably either ask you to mute yourself or mute you myself. The way we do voting is that we send votes to the vote counter via chat. I'm afraid they're not exactly incognito or hidden, but only the vote counter will see your vote. You can also send comments directly to our speakers or to our vote counter, who will be happy to pass them on. Sharing screen real quickly, our website is, I gotta let that disappear long enough to click on the tab, DallasSocialToastmasters.com. And if you can go to DallasSocialToastmasters.com to both see our agendas and our schedule. One of the things that you will notice here is that we have a special event. So let me point that out real quick. If you see this kind of a deal right under our homepage that says we have a special event, then you can click on here and it will explain what the special event is. In this case, that we are online only. Also from Dallas Social Toastmasters, there's the current agenda, which is right under the member section here. If you click on current agenda, it will take you to a copy of our current agenda for this evening, and you can follow along with Karen and everyone else's duties tonight as the meeting progresses. We do have a couple of holes here because Karen did not fill everything out apparently, and we will let Karen adjust that as she goes. I think that concludes all of the duties that I need to do tonight as your facilitator. If you have any problems, feel free to chat me, and I will see if I can help you with whatever issue you're having, whether that's can't hear or having trouble getting on. Whatever it is, let me know. I'll see what I can do for you. With that, we will go ahead and go to our invocation and pledge and Toastmaster combined, Karen Lee. Karen, take it away. Ooh.
You're on mute, Karen.
Karen, you're on mute.
Self off mute. Thank you, Mark. Start over. I chose as my theme tonight, my winter vacation. And also, before we get started, I'm also gave myself the duties for invocation and pledge. I don't have a flag, but for invocation tonight, I would just like to say that, to make the point that I spent 6 weeks out of town and basically on a family vacation, and also wanted to just say how much that I appreciate my family. And I know a lot of people have different views on family, but I do appreciate them very much. Well, with that said, our president, Lee King, do you have any opening remarks that you would like to start us off with? Do you want to recognize the guests?
We do, yes. We do have several guests. So please help me welcome. It looks like we have Rosa. We have Lida and Lisa. Finally, we also have Chris. So please help us welcome all of our guests for this evening, and we'll ask for comments at the end of the meeting.
I chime in real quick. Lisa is a paid member now, so
Oh, okay, never mind. Well, we will be voting on her then at the end of the meeting.
Welcome.
Very quick one as well as Wasif.
Ah,
Oh, yes, okay.
okay.
Yeah, he's just not here tonight, but he has paid and is eligible for a vote as well.
Okay. At this point in time, I'll go ahead and introduce our duty holders. I do apologize. I had uploaded a previous draft of the agenda. I won't do that again. The timer tonight is Justin Faust. You go ahead and introduce your duty to us, Justin.
Yes, so I am the timer. I'll be timing the prepared speeches, the off-the-cuff speeches, and also the evaluation portion of the meeting. So for the prepared speeches, it's 5 to 7 minutes. So at 5 minutes, I'll be showing green. At 6 minutes, I'll be showing yellow. 7 minutes, I'll be showing red. Once it hits 7 minutes, you have 30 minutes to wrap up. If you do not finish in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, you'll be disqualified.
Rob would need 30 minutes to wrap up.
So for our off-the-cuff speeches, they're a minute to qualify. So at a minute, I will show green to qualify. At a minute 30, I will show yellow. And at 2 minutes, I'll show red. You have to finish in 2:30 or else you'll be disqualified. For our evaluation portion, same setup. It's 2 to 3 minutes. So at 2 minutes, I'll show green. 2:30, I'll show yellow, and at 3, I'll show red. You have 30 more seconds to finish to qualify. 3:30. If you go past that, then you are disqualified. Thank you.
Okay, our next duty holder is our posture bill duty holder, and that is Rob Giles. Rob, will you go ahead and tell us about your duty? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. As your posture monitor, I'll be looking for any poor posture, any distracting gestures that you might be making during your presentations. And I will notate those, write them down, have a little report. I'll also include any gestures or posture that might actually enhance what you're trying to say, something that might bring it up to the next level. And I will note those as well. I'll give a report regarding all of it toward the end of the meeting when called upon by the general evaluator. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Our next duty holder is our odd counter, and that is Adelita Esparza. Go ahead and tell us about your duty, Adelita.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. My duty as the awe counter is to listen carefully for verbal distractions such as, and so, but, and other filter words or sounds. I will also keep track of the repeated words like the, I. Lastly, I keep track of long pauses when they are distracting. When I hear these crunch words, I will use the horn to notify the speaker, although we don't have a horn right now, so I'll just be writing them down. However, I am requested to do, I will keep track of the number of these speaking errors in writing for each person that speaks and give a report when called upon at the end of the meeting. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Our next duty holder is our vote counter, and that's Mark Schroeder. Will you tell us about your duty, Mark, please?
Okay, so vote counter. As a vote counter, what I'm going to do is basically count the votes. For any of our contests that have multiple contestants, which will include our speaking portion, the evaluation portion, and of course, table topics, there will be, as long as everyone qualifies, multiple people eligible for the prizes and ribbons. I will ask for, or Actually, I will count the votes. The person who is running the meeting at the time will ask for the votes. I will count them and tally them. I will also tally the votes for the best of the big three, which will be our Toastmaster, our Table Topics Master, and the General Evaluator toward the end of the meeting. I will report the results at the end, and if there is a tie, I will be the person that breaks the tie, but I will not say that there was a tie because then you know my vote. Since we are on Zoom, what this means is to do your vote is that you will need to open the chat, select on the 2 drop-down Mark Schroeder, and send your vote directly to me in order to get it tallied. Your vote is not private in that sense. I will know who voted where, but that's all. And let's see, is there anything else on any of that? Oh, guests are eligible to vote as well. If you're a guest, you're affected by what you hear and see as much as all the rest of us. So you are welcome to vote as well. Madam Toastmaster.
Our next duty holder is our grammarian, Tom Turiki. Tom, will you tell us about your duty, please?
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. As grammarian, it's my responsibility to pay close attention to the speakers, listening carefully to their use of the language. I'll take note of any egregious misuses, errors, or other torture of the language. I'll also be listening for any particularly luminous uses of the language. As grammarian, it's also my duty to introduce the word of the day. So for today's meeting, our word of the day, let me share. Our word of the day is grimoire. I stumbled upon this reading a product review and had to look it up and thought, wow, that is a great word. I can immediately see how I can use that. A grimoire is a book of magic, typically including instructions to create magical objects like talismans, amulets, or perform spells, charms, divination. It's, in short, a spell book. And while none of us have spell books or perform magic, where I found it particularly useful is when dealing with IT or really any complex topic that requires expertise. So for example, my PC won't boot. Can you pull something from your grimoire and fix it? So I'll give the word of the day report and the grammatical usage report when called upon at the end of the meeting. Additionally, each speaker is encouraged to use the word of the day, and in order to qualify for best table topic speaker, you must use the word of the day in your response. Thank you. Back to you, Karen.
Thank you, Tom. I said that my theme was my winter vacation. I was gone 6 weeks. I flew out of Dallas on December the 9th, and my niece's birthday was December the 10th. She had a birthday party, and Tom, just coincidentally, her birthday theme of her party is Harry Potter. So I'm sure that there must have been quite a few grimoires that Harry had to learn in his studies when he went to school. She loves everything Harry Potter, and I've never seen someone so enamored by Harry Potter. She also received a trivia game of Harry Potter that we played, and so now I have to get all the books again and read. I've read 1 through 4, but not 5, 6, and 7. So I'll have to go buy all the books and read them. But we also spent 3 days and 2 nights at Crystal Mountain, and it's a ski resort in Washington State. And it's about 3 hours from where they live. They live in Spanaway. So we went there and spent 3 days and 2 nights there. And we went to a Christmas festival, which was on the state fairgrounds, and we got COVID carded. Do you believe? We had to actually show our COVID cards. I didn't have my card with me, but I did have it on my phone, so I'd taken a picture of it. So we had to present our card to get into that particular event, and it's very different there, very different compared to here. It was very difficult. I was in so many states to know exactly what the the regulations were in different places. Some places you had to wear a mask and some you didn't. But very unusual. But we also went to Great Wolf Lodge, and I never knew. I suppose I live a sheltered life, but I never knew it was an indoor water park. So now I was spent a whole day there. So now I know what it is. But we had a lot of fun. We got very wet, very, very wet. But never been to an indoor water park in the wintertime. So now I know. But well, the next portion of our meeting is for our prepared speeches, and we have two speakers tonight. And Mark Sims is our first speaker. His evaluator is Dagan Newland. Dagan, you want to go ahead and tell us about what his objectives are today?
Sure. On this evaluation performance, the purpose statement is this project is to begin developing a collection of humor stories and present a speech that includes humor. And my notes are the member is completing a project is working on to add humor to a speech through anecdote stories. The speech should not be a report of the content of Know Your Sense of Humor project. So this is the Know Your Sense of Humor project. The title of the speech is, Well, I Thought It Was Funny, and it's 5 to 7 minutes. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Okay. Mark Sims, well, I thought it was funny. Mark Sims. Go ahead, Mark.
And just quickly, Mark, make sure that you have Justin, your timer, in view.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Humor is a great asset to speech or to social interaction. A well-timed humorous remark can really spice up otherwise maybe dry, boring presentation, or it can brighten up someone's day. Now, a joke or a story that lands with a thud is an embarrassment. And I've had a little experience in that myself. I don't know that I would need a grimoire to help me build up humor skills, but at times I thought I needed some help. And then fortunately in my life, I do have a few small wins in certain situations with humor that was well received. And for some of y'all that maybe are a little older, you may get this, but I can sympathize with the comic figure Don Knotts in the movie The Ghost and Mr. Chicken from the 60s. At one scene in that movie, his fictional character is giving a speech to a civic group. The prior speaker had to wrestle with a fussy microphone, and he made a little joke about the political affiliation of the sound people. And the Don Knotts character tried the same joke, and instead of getting a nice laugh, it got stony-faced silence. So I've been there. I found thinking, well, I thought it was funny when I said something that maybe didn't captivate the audience's attention. And looking back, where maybe I've had some humor setbacks have been with deadpan jokes. And by the way, if anyone ever says to you, you got a dry sense of humor, don't say thank you. Most likely they're not complimenting you. They're maybe saying, hey, bud, you're trying to be funny, but you're just not quite doing that. And a few college era stories come to mind. I remember the first day of a class, this was about 40 years ago, in a large auditorium, and the instructor asked us to estimate our accounting skills on a scale of 1 through 10. I heard the entire room denigrate their accounting abilities. And when it was my turn, I said, well, mine was at least a 10. And instead of getting a big laugh from a happy audience, I heard some gasp, some murmuring, and even a few shrieks. And it was all a joke, so I just sat down in embarrassment. So that did not go over well. And on another circumstance, I remember still in college talking to a professor, my computer course professor, and this was so long ago that we used punch cards for the programs. And I had some question for him in his office, and he was leaning over to pick up a piece of paper off the ground. He said, what can I do for you? And this stupid joke came to mind. It's almost like if you walk onto a plane and start joking about blowing up the plane. I said, I'm wondering how much would it take for me to pass the course? Well, that was stupid because he sat up really quickly, was very unamused, and I had to quickly respond that, hey, I was just making a joke. So deadpan humor can backfire, and maybe deservedly so, because I think in both these cases, the jokes were almost like a joke on someone, kind of like a gotcha, or I made you react. Almost in a sense like you were laughing at someone rather than laughing with them. Now, in situations where I've had success with humor and making public remarks, I can see now that these were in cases where the audience knew me a little better, and I knew them. And we were talking about something that was common knowledge. And one example is a distinctly unfunny setting. At my father's funeral in the early 2000s, I was given a eulogy. I was, of course, extolling his virtues. And then I made the comment that Dad had talked over or told us so much about how he had struggled, his family had struggled during the Great Depression of the 1930s, because he told us over and over and over again, did he tell us about walking to school in the snow uphill both ways. And while that wasn't side splitting, the audience responded favorably because they knew him, they knew his mannerisms, they could imagine him emphatically making the same point over and over again. And so it was a nice reaction. Similarly, later in that same eulogy, to demonstrate his dad's and mom's very simple lifestyle, I noted that they were homebodies. The last movie they had actually went to see was E.T., which at that time was about 20 years before the eulogy I was giving. And again, since everyone knew them, that got a nice, comfortable laugh. Not gales of laughter, but a good, comfortable interaction. And somewhat more recently, a couple of years ago recently, I was given some remarks before my church, and one topic that I went over was my mother, and I recall her years ago teaching a Bible study class, but the audience was first graders, and I made it clear that that really was not in her comfort zone because she was definitely not temperamentally suited for a crowd of 20 first graders. And I knew that because I and my brother were more than enough to drive her crazy. And again, that wasn't hilarious. It wasn't side splitting. But given the fact that most of the audience had been parents, most of them, in a sense, had been there, again, it was a good, comfortable response. So maybe a belated lesson is that knowing your audience well helps in delivering humor. So looking back, I can see that some potential or some humor miscues could have maybe been avoided by things such as test marketing potential jokes on your peers, reading the room, making sure you know the audience, but then above all, being sincere with your audience so that you're laughing with them as opposed to maybe laughing at someone. And if you follow all these suggestions, maybe you can avoid being in an embarrassing failed humor situation and thinking, well, I thought it was funny. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark. Now I know that when folks tell me I had a dry sense of humor, that wasn't something that was very, that wasn't really a compliment. I always wondered what a wet sense of humor was supposed to be. But anyway, aside from that, well, we also have another speaker tonight, Lee King, and his evaluator is Mark Schroeder. Mark, will you tell us what Lee's objectives are?
I would be happy to, Karen. This is going to be interesting because in all of my years in Toastmasters, I've never seen a requirement like this one. The purpose statement for Lee's speech tonight is to practice the skills needed to address audience challenges when he presents outside of a Toastmasters group. The notes for the evaluator say that he has to learn how to manage a difficult audience. So in particular, he's going to deliver a 5 to 7 minute speech on any topic and practice responding to floor audience member disruptions. Speech can be new or previously presented. I am not to evaluate the speech or its content. The evaluation is based on his ability to address and diffuse challenges presented by the audience. Audience members have been assigned apparently by the Toastmaster and or the Vice President of Education prior to the meeting. And since you're looking like it wasn't you, I'm hoping that Robin's done that or somebody has done that. It says watch for professional behavior, respectful interactions with audience members, and the use of strategies to refocus the audience on the member speech. He actually has 10 to 15 minutes to deliver his 5 to 7 minute speech because he has to respond to all of the disruptions. Like I say, I've never seen one of these. It will be interesting to see how he consults his grimoire to do this one. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, Lee King. Yes, masks are still required. Lee King.
Good evening, members of the board. It is with regrets that I must inform you all that masks are still required at the establishment. And I will address questions and answers as best as I can throughout this speech. But first, I will give a little opening. First, let's talk about COVID. Many people think that COVID is new and that it only started back in 2019. Well, unfortunately, COVID has been around for much longer. And like other infections, they are zoonotic in nature, which means that they can travel from human to animal and from animal to human. Now, I know that some of you really are not interested in this topic and you want to take your masks off. However, it is important to recognize the fact that we have lost members from our board for short periods of time due to COVID, and we've lost some members permanently due to death from COVID. So it is still very real. And unfortunately, as best as we have in our science abilities, there is no grimoire to this virus. Even though people have been vaccinated, we are still seeing a lot of breakthrough infections. Also, it is important to note that COVID, the coronavirus, the SARS virus, is like all other bacteria and viruses. Unfortunately, they do have the grimoire to continue mutating and changing and surviving, even though we come up with vaccines, antibiotics, antiviral drugs, all of which to fight the virus or the vaccine. Furthermore, another interesting point that some people don't realize is we don't always know if a virus is living or not living. Yes, that is actually a debate among biologists that people do find somewhat interesting, that all of this, the whole entire pandemic is regarding around something that could essentially not even be living, because it's never been proven if a virus is living or not living. So at this point, I know that there are a lot of questions about masking. I don't want to take up all my time presenting a bunch of dull facts, because I know that a number of you really don't care about COVID. Your number one concern is that of unmasking. So please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. I'm assuming that nobody has any questions.
I've got a question. If you put those things on your face, aren't you just masking some of the symptoms?
You could be masking some of the symptoms. However, it also depends on if other people are wearing a mask. Yes, you will be masking the symptoms if you put on a face mask and no one else is wearing a mask, because yes, you can still get the virus. However, if other people are polite and wear a mask, then you might actually stop the spread. Do we have any other questions?
I wonder why some of the states require masks and others don't. It makes it confusing if you're traveling from state to state to know what to do.
Well, I think that it is confusing. Everybody has political views. Unfortunately, science and politics are really merging at the moment. But I think that the most important thing is that for this establishment, masks are going to be required. So it really doesn't matter what the state of Texas. In fact, among hospitals and healthcare organizations, the governor's order actually continues to mandate masks.
What is your opinion for masking?
Masking has proven to slow the spread of viruses. Masking has reduced the amount of infection, and it has helped save some lives. Has it saved every life? No. Is it the best solution? Probably not. The best solution would be vaccines, which the board is also considering requiring mandating vaccines because vaccines have been proven to be more effective than masking. Do we have any other questions?
Also,
How can you force us to wear masks? Doesn't that violate our, right to choose?
Well, considering that we represent a healthcare organization, it actually is not. And because we are not directly dealing with patients, we are not mandated to be vaccinated, although if you do care for patients, you will have to be fully vaccinated by the end of March to continue your job. We have other questions or concerns.
well, so I get that masks are going to be required, even though they don't really work. So given what's going to be the penalty if we're not using one?
Well, we'd have to take disciplinary actions, of course, that would result in the first infraction being a verbal warning. Second infraction would be written notice. The third offense would result in a suspension of your duties. And then finally, a fourth offense would result in termination of your employment for unsubordination. Does anybody else have any questions?
What are your thoughts on the material that is used for the masking at let's say the NR95 versus just wearing like a cloth?
So we know that the N95 masks have been proven to be more effective than cloth masks because they have noticed that actually someone that has been in a room with someone with COVID that's been wearing the N95 masks for up to 25 hours have not tested positive. Those people that wear cloth masks do tend to catch COVID if they're in a room with a person that has COVID for as short of a period of time as 30 minutes. And then finally, the surgical masks, you can get about 4 to 6 hours of protection. I personally feel that the surgical masks are safer. They are more effective than the cloth masks, and they are more comfortable than the N95 masks. However, I feel like as long as you are willing to participate in our policy, cover your nose and mouth, then I would leave that up to whatever your comfort level is. Now, regarding masks, I do like to remind people that when it comes to masking, it may seem strange to some of us to have to wear a mask all day, but just keep in mind that for decades, surgeons have had to wear masks all day, every day. It has not affected the breathing or caused cancer or any other really bad side effects. Do I have any other questions?
So what
we have
about a
any-
lot of people that can't wear masks just because all the CO2 carbon dioxide builds up in them, and so they just can't do it?
I have actually there haven't been no studies showing that that is actually the case. Again, I do remind people that surgeons have to wear masks all day, every day, and sometimes they're doing surgery for 6, 8, 10 hours, and they are not allowed to take a mask off during surgery. Or I should say that most likely, if you found out that your surgeon was taking his mask off during surgery, you probably would not go back to that surgeon. You would not recommend that surgeon to other people. So with that said, there has been no evidence that actually shows that there are bad consequences medically for wearing a mask and that you do have CO2 buildup. Do we have any other questions or concerns?
Some of us like to wear sunglasses, and the masks fog our sunglasses. How do you recommend our more stylish people wear masks with sunglasses?
I've worn masks. I've worn masks for a number of years prior to COVID, working with patients. I've also worn glasses ever since I was 6 years old. One strategy that works really well is making sure that you mold the mask to your nose and use that wire piece to really mold it to the bridge of your nose, and you'll actually find that your glasses don't fog up. Another technique that you can use if you've got to wear sunglasses is to try pulling the mask down just a little bit so that there's a little space under your chin, just a little bit, and you'll notice that your glasses don't fog up as much. There's also different cleaning agents that you can use for your glasses that help reduce fog, and that's worked for some people. With that, I do appreciate your time. I understand that this is not a popular move that we are having to make, but I do respectfully ask that you follow the policies, as I really would prefer not to have to take on any disciplinary action for people not wearing masks. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you for what it's worth. You did a great job with all the hecklers in the audience. Also, I don't know if you're aware of it, but we're required and are required to wear a singer's mask. And it's not necessarily a singer's mask. You can choose to wear the singer's mask if you'd like to, but there are masks for singers out there. I will also ask at this time for a timer's report. Did all of our speakers qualify?
Yes, they did. Mark Sims qualified at 7:17. Lee King qualified at 11:16.
Okay, thank you. So that means that both of our speakers you can choose to vote for best speaker. So both of our speakers qualified. So you go ahead and vote in the chat screen. Our guests can vote. I'd also like to, at this time, you can also put any comments you'd like to in the chat for our speakers. That includes the guests. So they will get a formal evaluation, but you can make comments to our speakers about what you think that they did well. Or maybe if you want to give them any suggestions for improvement, you can do so right through the chat. Also, at this point in time, we come to our impromptu speaking, and our table topics master for tonight is Rob Giles. Go ahead, Rob.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. Table topics. It's our opportunity to take on some impromptu speaking and to also improve ourselves in that endeavor. One of the things that we want to kind of learn to do as we go along in Toastmasters and hopefully in life is to learn to speak in an impromptu, I guess, setting, and to do it well. And that means perhaps have like a mini speech. You heard the prepared speeches for table topics. you may want to try to hone your skills so that you can have a mini speech where you have an opening, you have a body, and you have a closing. And if you can get to that, great. But there's time to get to that as you move along. Table topics, you need to do a couple of things in order to qualify. One is to use the word of the day during your topic answer. And that word of the day, as our grammarian said, was grimoire. So whatever you have to do, if you have to pull that word out of your grimoire in order to answer the topic or the question, then please do so. But use it and you will qualify if you do one other thing. And that is meet our timing requirements. And that is you have to reach at least 1 minute and you cannot exceed more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So keep an eye on your timer. That is Justin. Keep him on your screen if you're speaking as a topic contestant. And watch what he has up there. When he gets the red card up there, be sure to wrap it up at that point. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to bring some of the theme into the table topics. The theme, my winter vacation. So I'm going to bring some of that in here. So think about some of those things. And I'm going to call on some of the people in the audience. I'll do some questions and then I'll go to our guests to see if they want to participate. So guests, if you want to participate at that point, just raise your hand. I've got everybody on screen, so keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and get started with this. When I was thinking about my winter vacation, I thought to myself that I really have never taken that. You know, I've had times where I've gone and visited family, and you might consider that to be a vacation. But what I would like to do actually is to ask Adelita, do you prefer winter vacation or summer vacation, and why?
Thank you, Topic Master. I would prefer winter vacation just because not a lot of, well, I guess it all depends on where you go. But if you go to a destination that is not, I lost the train of thought. If you go somewhere that there's not a lot of people that you know of, it's best to go on those off-season days because you get to have the whole, it's kind of like saying you get to have the whole area to yourself. In other words, in the summer it's very hot. You go to a beach destination. Why go to a beach destination when you already know there's going to be a lot of people out there? And it's going to make it even more hotter than what you've already experienced back home. If it's hot back home as well, might as well go somewhere else. And you may want to go ahead and use your grimoire to find other places to go that is also off season. But I would prefer winter, just so I won't overheat in the summer. Back to you, Ms. Topic Master.
Thank you so much, Adelita. I myself am more of a summer vacation, but that's always what I've done since I've been young. And I may rethink that a little bit and maybe take advantage of getting away from the cold and moving into a summer setting during the winter. So it's something to think about for sure. I would like to know, though, as far as vacations go, sometimes we have vacation spots that we go to, and some of us go to them on a regular basis. Some of us go to different places all the time. But perhaps there's one that you haven't gone to, one that is something that's on your list and you got to get to it at some point. I would like to ask Tom, is there a vacation spot on your bucket list? And if so, what is it?
Thank you, Rob. I think I may have to, as you proposed, reach into my grimoire to find an answer for this one. My favorite vacation spot that I have been to a number of times is Italy. I've been there, I think, once for work and 3 times for vacation, and never have I had a bad meal there. The food is extraordinary. I'm really looking forward to when travel really opens up again in a big way, and we can really travel freely. And I think if I had to pick a destination that's on my bucket list, it'd be really hard to pick because there's a handful. The guys that I travel with every year or two, we'll put together a guys trip. We've got a destination on our collective bucket list, and that's Machu Picchu. I've always wanted to go there, and that sounds really cool. There's another one that we've talked about that's on some of the guys' bucket list, and I need to think really hard about whether it's on my bucket list or not, and that's running the bulls in Pamplona. Maybe not. But if I really were pressed to pick one place to be on my bucket list, I think it would be Barcelona. I've had a lot of friends who've been there. My wife and daughter have both been there, and the list of the amount of stuff to do there and amazing things that I'm really looking forward to seeing is too long to count. I think I might even have to, from what I've heard, might have to go twice to do all the things there. So that's my bucket list destination. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you so much, Tom. I have a few on my list as well, and I hope that I get to go to at least one of them down the road. But having them there is good. It gives you hope. It gives you something to look forward to. So just hearing some of the ones that you were mentioning, Tom, definitely things that I need to add to my list of places I want to go on vacation. I would like to move on to the next question, and that is winter vacation. So as I said, I really haven't taken a winter vacation, at least not in my memory, outside of just going to visit some family. So, and that was basically for the holidays. So I'd like to ask, have you taken a winter vacation? If so, where? And if not, where would you like to take a winter vacation? And this question goes to Justin. Dagan, can you time Justin for me, please?
Yes, sir. And I'm ready.
Winter vacation. So I did take a winter vacation actually twice when I was younger. I went to New York twice. But if I had to pick one location to go to in the wintertime, I would go to a place called Yakutsk, Siberia. Why is that? It's the largest city in the world, 250,000 people, and it's the coldest city far north Siberia, Russia. It's regularly -50, -40, -30. I think I checked today, it's like probably -35 degrees Fahrenheit. The reason why I want to go there, actually, I'm not a big fan of the cold weather, but I want to experience how they live. I want to experience what it's like. They have specialized shoes. They don't wear shoes that we wear. They wear shoes that are designed for the cold weather. They're made from reindeer boots. Reindeer. They're specialized reindeer boots. You may say they're pulled out of grimoire. They're made from specialized material. The clothes, they have fish markets, which there are no refrigerators. The fish stay outside all day long because it's freezing outside. The locals there, that Yakutia, they're very short, stocky people. Hardly anyone is over 5'8". So I would love to go there for a winter, see the Aurora Borealis, see some reindeer, see the people, how they live in the coldest winter, in the coldest place, in the coldest city in the world. Thank you, Topic Master.
Thanks so much, Justin. Sounds like there's a prepared speech in there somewhere. So I look forward to that down the road. And it is interesting that a lot of times when I think of vacations and going somewhere, that is a lot of what I'm thinking about is the culture, is immersing yourself into that to gain something new, to get something that you haven't experienced before. So I would agree with you in that regard, although I'm not sure that I would do that in winter, go from winter to winter. However, maybe in the summer, I might take a winter trip there. One more question here, and that is, when you go on vacation, how do you prefer to get there? Planes, trains, automobiles? This question goes to John Vessels. John.
Well, thank you, Rob. Well, done them all. I've taken a train and rode on a couple of days or a day and a half, whatever it was, from Albuquerque to Los Angeles. And that was fun. I can fly, but flying is not my preferred method of going anywhere. I prefer not to fly unless I just really have to, which usually is relegated to business. But I pull out of my grimoire with my magic driving skills, and I can drive all day long. I lived in Amarillo, and I'd go visit the family. It was a 10-hour drive. I'd stop for gas once, and I was on my way. And I used to drive all the time. I can drive nonstop, doesn't bother me. Or at least it didn't. I haven't had any really super long drives in a long time. Although, since we're not cruising anymore because of COVID at the moment, my family's decided we're going to Sedona, Arizona this year, and have invited me to go there. Of course, I have to drive to Bryan to get my sister, so 3 hours out of the way to do the 15-hour trip to Tucson to pick up my other sister to do the 3-hour drive from Tucson up to Sedona, and then reverse it at the end of the week, because I'm just gullible and I'll do anything. But I still prefer to drive. I prefer to drive wherever I go. That way I have a vehicle. I hate going on trips and not being able to get out and go anywhere. I've flown to Vegas, and you can walk there a lot, but also you can get on the Deuce, which is their double-decker bus. And it was like used to be. I don't know what it is now, but $5, you could ride it all day long as many times as you wanted. And so I could go downtown and go to the Strip or hit anything anywhere. So that one wasn't too bad, but I usually like to have wheels so that I can get around. Back to you, Rob.
Thanks so much, John. I've never gone by boat. That's something that needs to be on my bucket list, is perhaps take a vacation and go by boat, take a cruise or do whatever. Just get there by boat to experience that. Getting different experiences, that's what life is all about. I'm going to ask our guests, do we have any guests that would like to participate? Just raise your hand. Okay, we have Chris. Did I see anybody else? I didn't see anybody. Okay, all right, that's okay. So Chris, you obviously know this is coming to you. And the question is not too difficult. Tell us about your last vacation. Where did you go and what did you do?
My last vacation. Well, it was a while back. It was actually to Dallas, Texas. Now that may not sound that far to you guys, but I'm up here visiting you from Joplin, Missouri. And we went down, my wife and I went down to Dallas, Texas for a purpose. And that purpose was to see the balloon event that they have in Plano. And I forgot the name of it, but they have it every September, because I enjoy watching hot air balloons ascend into the sky, the glow, all of that. I just really enjoy that. I love the imagery. Gives me the idea that you can overcome any problem, any challenge, obstacle, adversity, a limitation, or setback. And we got there, and we were also there because my wife works for a company that's based there. And we were checking out Dallas in case we could get a promotion and move there, which didn't happen, and that's okay. But while we were there, we ran into a few obstacles. And one of them was we wanted to see the, I believe it's a museum that has information or facts or a tour about Anne Frank and the Holocaust and the entire World War II in Germany. But they were closed. One day we wanted to go was a holiday for the museum. So we had to pull into our little bag of I'm hoping I'm going to pronounce this right, gizmo, and come up with something else to do that day instead of sitting in the hotel room and being in the way of housekeeping who needed to clean our room. We enjoyed our time down there. Dallas is a beautiful city, and I would love to go and visit it again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. So at this point, I'm going to conclude our table topic session, or at least our contestants. I'm going to ask for a couple of things. One, I'm going to ask for a timer's report from our timer. Did all of our contestants qualify on time, Justin?
Yes, they did.
Excellent, wonderful. And I need another report, and that is from our grammarian. Mr. Grammarian, did all of our contestants use the word of the day?
Thank you, Rob. Adelita, Tom, Justin, and John Vessels all used the word grimoire in their table topics speech. Chris, you used the word grimoire. I think you pronounced it gizmo, and we're fishing for, I think it was grimoire is what you were fishing for. And since you're a guest, and since you noted that you were trying to use it and you weren't sure if you said it, you pronounced it correctly, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say that yes, you used the word grimoire, even if it was a slightly alternate pronunciation. Not a pronunciation that I think is you see in the dictionary, but A+. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Tom. And Tom, you used it as well. I don't know if you mentioned that. So all the contestants used it, the word of the day. So I'll go over the contestant list. Please send a vote, and guests, please send votes as well. And you want to do that by doing a private chat to Mark Schroeder, who is our vote counter. Just put in their best table topic and put in the person's name, and I'll go through those names right now. We had Adelita, who talked about winter vacation versus summer vacation. We had Tom, who talked about a bucket list where he wants to go for vacation. And we had Justin, who talked about whether he took a winter vacation or not, and he mentioned wanting to go to Russia. And we also had John, who talked about how he likes to get to his vacation, and driving is one of his, planes are not. And then finally, we had Chris, who told us about one of his vacations where he went, which was our fair city of Dallas, Texas. So go ahead and place your vote for one of those 5 people. And again, send them in a private chat to Mark Schroeder, who is our vote counter. He'll tally up the votes. At this point, I would like to pass the meeting along to Madam Toastmaster. Do you need it to go back to you, or can we go to the general evaluator?
Rob, I'd like to take over just for a few minutes, please.
Okay. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
One of the things that we did do during our winter vacation was we took a family picture, and my sister-in-law is the great family organizer, and she actually, I'm not sure if you can see this, but she actually organized several years ago a family picture where you see that this is my mom, myself, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, and my sister, and my niece, Jade. And you'll see in this picture that we had taken over the holidays that this is the current picture. You always remember Mom died in 2019, so she's not with us anymore. It's myself, my sister, Elisa, brother-in-law, Daryl, and then that's my niece now, who's now 11. My niece that's going on 4, she'll be 4 in March, my sister-in-law, Joanne, and my brother, Brian. But that's all of us. And that is one thing that Joanne's very good at. She organized getting us taking pictures twice there. But now I'll go ahead and turn the meeting over to our general evaluator, John Vessels. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Karen. It's always nice to see, to me, family pictures, because then you know what everybody else looks like. Someday I'll get the big one from years ago when I had like 22 people. That was Christmas. And that was immediate family. All right. So the general evaluation portion of the meeting is where we will talk about the evaluation, how everybody did, what we saw, what we liked, what we disliked. And it's just our way of giving good criticism, good helpful remarks to help people learn and improve. And we're going to do what first is the evaluators of our speeches tonight. So each speech had an assigned evaluator. And now I'm going to call upon those evaluators to present their evaluations to us and to their evaluatee. Our first evaluator for tonight is Dagan, and Dagan is going to evaluate Mark Simsa's speech. Go ahead, Dagan.
All right, thank you, John. So I'm evaluating, like I said, Mark Simsa's speech today. I'm gonna do it by the 3-2-1 method. 3 things I like, a couple things I think maybe need to improve on, and one thing I really liked. So first of all, I just want to say it's really awesome that you use the word of the day pretty early on in the speech. So that's pretty cool when you see people use the word of the day on the fly in a prepared speech. Part of that was also that you use the title of the speech in the speech. So I always find it pretty cool because a lot of times when I'm watching movies, I'm always waiting for them to say the title in the movie of a speech. So I always find it fascinating when you do that too. So another thing I liked is that you definitely met the purpose of your project, which was a collection of humorous stories and present that speech to include humor. So you definitely met the project of your speech. So definitely good job there. And thirdly, is the speech was definitely well organized. You had your opening, your body with your points, and your closing. So that's definitely a good thing about a speech. That's that's just the basic steps of a speech. So definitely did a good job there as well. A couple of things I think you need to improve on is maybe when you're doing your speeches, it really kind of goes for kind of everybody. I just sit a little further back so we can see more of you when you're doing your speech, so we can see more like hand signals and more body language. So, and also when you're mentioning your anecdotes and your little stories about humor, maybe provide a little bit more verbal afflection to make it stand out a little better. So when you're presenting the humor. So then overall, I just really enjoyed the speech overall because I always enjoy speeches that have humor. And of course, I even chuckled a little bit on some of those things. But of course, since the project was know your sense of humor, you definitely relayed that in your speech, but by your points that you had about the different types of humor and your stories about them and how people reacted. So because based on your deadpan humor and your talk about you didn't have much success with that, and then talk about your successes with humor. So you definitely relayed what the project in your speech. So overall, just to recap, pretty awesome to use word of the day and the title of the speech in the speech. And you definitely hit the purpose of the project, well-organized speech, just maybe sit a little further back and have a little more reflection on your talking, when you're talking about your humor, and just overall, just awesome speech. So great job, Mark Sims, and back to you, doing evaluator.
Thank you, Dagan. All right, our second speaker tonight was Lee King, and he's going to be evaluated by Mark Schroeder. So Mark Schroeder, can you give us your evaluation, sir?
Thank you so much, John. And fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially Lee. A speech with distractions and hecklers. Never seen one done like this. It was definitely interesting. I'm going to do effectively a 3-2-1, although it may be a 4-2-1. Several things that I thought that you did well, a couple of points perhaps to improve upon, and then what I liked overall about the speech in particular. And this is an odd one because all of your introductory material has no disruption, so I don't get to comment on any of that. But I had to wait until the distraction started. But I thought when they did start, you did a very professional job of keeping your cool, not getting flustered, not getting into anything heated after picking a very potentially, well, we know it's a heated topic. And so I thought you did a very good job of keeping it at a very high professional level. You generally did acknowledge what the concern was in most of the distractions. There's one that I'm going to bring up that was different, but you did generally acknowledge them, and you sometimes disputed what they had to say. As for instance, at one point you said that there were no stories, that this had to do with the CO2, that there were no studies that had proven that. Minor redirect, you can't prove a negative, so it might have been better to say that there are studies that have shown the opposite. That's always better than saying there are no studies, because it's, like I say, you can't prove a negative. A couple of things that I thought were areas for improvement, and I think perhaps Tom would maybe agree with this. I think you got off easy tonight in terms of the distractions and disruptions that you had. And that was because, it was partially because of the prep that was done. You didn't have people being too vicious. You picked a vicious topic, hoping that you would bring people out of the woodworks to be vicious and really disrupt. And I don't think you got, what you got in fact was, in some cases, just questions and open-ended, and what do you think? And that's not quite the same as a disruption in my mind. So I think maybe you needed to have a little bit different prep for this one to set some people's expectations, perhaps, as to how they could deliberately make things a little tougher on you, so that you had to diffuse situations, because I didn't feel like you had that much to diffuse. In particular, and this is one of them, one of the points, I specifically said at one point that, just under my breath is one of the comments, masks really don't work. I said blah, 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 it's required, but since masks really don't work anyway, and you didn't address that part at all. You skipped right over that part. And I picked up because, quite frankly, in the process of describing the fact that we were recommending guests to wear masks at Ozonas, especially if they were not vaxxed, I was told by a guest in the comment on the way back to me, well, guess, masks don't really work anyway, but I'll wear one. So I wanted to see how you were going to handle that. But finally, overall, you picked a very controversial topic in order to get people to try to rile them at least and get some disruptions. You kept it very professional, you kept it very under control, and a lot of this was all about keeping you and the discussion under control. You did a great job. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mark. All right, now to Justin, did both evaluators qualify on time?
Yes,
Justin?
both did. Dagan was 301, Mark was 328.
All right, thank you. So now everybody could take a moment and vote for who you thought did the best job as evaluator this evening between Dagan and Mark Schroeder, and send that by private chat to Mark Schroeder. Then he can tabulate the votes and present those results later. Now I'm going to do a few points about this evening and what I thought when I saw it. Our meeting started just a couple minutes late, and we were waiting for some possible guests coming in since we're back on Zoom and not in person. That's fine, but when I'm at work and I start a Zoom meeting, I started on time, and you got to catch up if you didn't get there when you were supposed to. But that's just me. Okay. Karen, nice topic. Good material you presented. Me just kind of a family trip that you've been on. It's nice that somebody can take 6 weeks vacation and, time off. It'd be wonderful. One thing where did you go?
Actually went to Washington State. My brother lives in Spanaway, Washington. And then I went from there back in the truck with Elisa and Daryl, my sister and brother-in-law and their 2 dogs. Went to Kansas, Mount Hope, Kansas, where I dog sat for them while they went to Disney in Florida. So I dog sat for 5 days. Then I came back.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you had gone up to the Pacific Northwest, but I couldn't exactly remember where. So I just That would have been nice to mention. That way we would have known. I didn't know that you also went to Kansas too. But hey, that's on the way back. So, you're cool. Anyway, I also liked at the end there where you presented a picture of your family. It's always nice to see people's families and to know a little more about all of us. So table topics, Rob, good questions. They were all very relevant. They were all like easy to answer. So they weren't like any stumpers that really caused you to go nuts and try to, go into dead silence trying to figure out what you could talk about. So good material. I have a comment I've got to say for Justin. It's like, when you go to rush into the coldest city in the world and all that, hey, it'd feel like summer when you came back here in the middle of the winter and it's only 19 degrees. It's like, I don't even need my jacket anymore. Come on, I'm used to this. So yeah, but winter and the winter vacation, I mean, of course, that's the only time you're really going to get to know it, but it's still different. Most people go to the other climates so they can get away from it. But all in all, great table topics, good material. Everybody presented really good answers and were able to answer the question successfully without any major difficulties. So that's always a good thing. Now I'd like to move on to our duty holders, and let's get our duty holders report. Let's go ahead and start with our posture monitor, Mr. Rob.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. We're on Zoom. We don't get a lot of gestures regardless. It's tough. You have to always remember to have your hands up. Though it's one thing that I will say is that there's more opportunities there for us to make points and make them stronger. We can raise the level of our performance and our presentation by actually using some gestures. So I think, like Dagan had mentioned in his evaluation, back up a little bit if you have to, and try to use your hands a little bit, at least for a few points. You don't have to do it all the time, but at least for points here and there. And I didn't see anything that was distracting or anything that was something that would take away from anybody's presentation. So that was great. Overall, we did okay. We have some areas that we can improve upon and maybe use some gestures to enhance what we're saying. But other than that, well done. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Rob. Our next duty holder for the evening we'd like to go to is Adelita, and she is our counter for the night. So Adelita, can you present your report, please?
Thank you. All right. There was not really a whole lot. I'm very proud to see that a lot of you guys did not use the word awe. I think I was the one on the topic on the topic master. I mean, table topics. That's what I meant to say. I've said more than enough, I guess. For Tom, I did get 2 I's and 1 ah. Dagan, I noticed that I lost count though. I noticed that you would use the word so at the end of the sentence. And I only caught 3 ahs. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Adelita. Our last duty holder for the evening that we're going to hear from is our grammarian, and that is Tom Turiki. Tom, tell us about the grammar for tonight.
Thank you very much, John. On mute. Yeah, I'm good. So I'll go in semi-chronological order. So Mark, in your speech, in your prepared speech, I noticed right out of the gate, you used the word grimoire. Thank you very much. There were a handful of other particularly good turns of phrase or uses of the language that I caught in your speech. You used the term stony face silence to refer to the reaction you got when a joke fell flat. I liked that one. You mentioned that your classmates had denigrated their ability. I thought that was a good use of the language. Side splitting you used a couple times, and that was very aptly used, and that's not one that I frequently hear or use, although it's well understood, and I think it was nicely used there. My favorite in your prepared speech was when you used the term gales of laughter. That was very nicely done as well, I thought. Lee, in your prepared speech, I noticed that you used the word grimoire, not once, but twice, which I think constitutes showing off, which I'm a huge fan of. So thank you very much for that. Let's see. Also, you said you'll address questions and answers during the speech. I think you meant you'll answer questions during the speech. I think you may have misspoken slightly there. You used the word zoonotic. I think that's how it's pronounced. I actually had to look it up, that one, but I appreciated both not only that you used the word, but that you defined it for us, so we knew what it was. I thought that was fantastic. I appreciated learning a new one. In answer to Mark's question, I thought I heard the word unsubordination. It may have been just how it came out, or it may have been the Zoom call, but I think what you meant there was insubordination. And I think that's all that I caught in your prepared speech. Overall, very nicely done. Rob, you used in your questions for Lee, you used the term masking symptoms in a question about masks, and I thought that was a nice play on word. I thought that was a fun question to ask. John, you used the word evaluatee, which was new to me and made me smile. I quite appreciated that one. Dagan, in your evaluation, I think it was in your evaluation, you recommended the use of more, and what I heard was more verbal afflection, which I think you meant verbal inflection. And I'm not sure if that was just the way you pronounced the word, or the way the Zoom call, or the way I heard it. Alternatively, you might have meant more verbal affliction, which would be a very entertaining critique to give. And lastly, John Vessels, there was another one for you. During the table topics, you used the word gullible to suggest that you were willing to do anything. And usually I've heard that word used to mean willing to believe anything, or easily convinced of a fact which is not necessarily true. That one caught my attention, and I would need to go look that one up. I'm not sure if that's a correct use of the word. If so, it certainly got my attention and made me perk up and pay attention to what you're saying. So back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Now, the next thing I want to do before we start our business meeting is to call for a vote of the big three. Now, the big three are your Toastmaster, which tonight was Karen Lee, our Topic Master, which was Rob Giles, or myself as General Evaluator John Vessels. So now, if you would take a moment and send a vote to Mark Schroeder by private chat, who you thought did the best job of the three main jobs for the evening. And with that, I'm going to move us on to Lee King, who is our president for the business meeting.
Good evening, everybody. We will start with guests. We have a few of them. If you're a guest, I'm just going to briefly ask what brings you to Toastmasters and how you found us, what you thought about our meeting. We'll start with Rosa.
Hi, it's good to be here and be able to see all of you. I was reading and searching information of clubs or groups in which I could improve my English communication skills. And I was talking to a friend that is actually a member at another Toastmaster club. So I was reading your website and reached out, and That's the purpose, to improve my pronunciation, feel more confident when I have to speak at meetings and those professional environments, as well as when I have to talk spontaneously about any topic, be able to express myself correctly.
What did you think about our meeting this evening?
Excuse me?
What did you think about our meeting this evening?
It was very good, very organized. I'm still learning the rules, so I was trying to figure it out, the order, the roles. I think that I can find that information also in your website, so I could be more informed about how the meters are conducted. But so far, I really like it. I think it's a good experience for me to grow in this aspect and to know more people also in the professional environment. So
Thank you. We did have one guest leave us. Our remaining guest for this evening is Lydia. Lydia, will you please tell us what brings you to Toastmasters, what you thought about our meeting, how you found us?
Hi, thank you, Lee. Yeah, so I was searching for clubs and ways to also improve myself, especially with speaking. I am a young professional and I do want to practice on my speaking abilities. And so that's why I was starting to search for Toastmaster groups. And I've happened upon this one and also one at my work. So I wanted to try this one out as well, to maybe get out of my work a little bit more. And I thought the meeting was also very well organized, and it's also a little bit different here because y'all get to vote on who did good jobs and stuff. I don't think the one at my work is big enough for voting just yet. So that was very interesting and I enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you very much. We now have two people to vote on. One is among us, Lisa, and then the other one is not here for this evening. So Mark, could you move them to a separate room? This is just a procedural thing that
Yeah, let me see.
Toastmasters requires, just in case there are problems on down the road.
Manually, one breakout room, one moment, please. And let's see, I need to move Lisa. And is Lisa the only one that's here? Looks like that's right.
Yeah,
I think so,
yes.
yeah.
Okay. Assign to room one. Lisa, I think she's moving. Let's make sure she does in fact leave. I show her not joined yet. Okay, she is in the other room.
Okay. We have two applications, Lisa, and the other one is, sorry, forgot.
Wasi?
Wasif.
Wasif.
Yeah.
Wasif.
Or
Yeah.
Wasif. Wasif.
All right. So two applications, two members. Do we have a motion?
A motion that we accept both members.
Okay, do
Second.
we have a second? Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, please bring Lisa back in.
Sadly, that is going to take a moment. The one thing I hate about breakout rooms is if you do them quickly like that, it takes 60 seconds for them to come back.
Zipping along while we wait.
Yeah, really.
Just want to briefly talk about the contest next week. We have two international speech contestants, that being Justin and Karen Lee. We have one person interested in evaluations, which is Mark Sims. Is there anyone else interested in competing in either of the two contests? Does not look like it, okay? Which
Is there like
means
a
that we,
description of the speeches or like what we have to do?
international speech is any speech 5.
Yeah. I can reach out to you, Justin,
Okay.
to give you more specifics. And
Just real
Same
quickly,
thing for
Lisa
you,
has
Karen.
re-entered the room.
Here we go. Lisa, congratulations. Welcome to Dallas Social Toastmasters. We were just briefly talking about the contest for next week. And so Justin, in essence, yes, international speech is 5 to 7 minute speech. You can be on anything that you want it to be on. Usually the speeches for international that win tend to be inspirational in nature, but there's nothing that says it can't be 5 to 7 minutes humorous speech either. I know, so with only Mark Sims being interested in the evaluation contest, we don't need to really have a contest for evaluations. So we would just need a contest for the international, which we've discussed would be done virtual. Well, Justin and Mark Sims would be virtual so they can practice. We will need a virtual timer. Probably a virtual contest master would be easier. And at least one virtual timer. So Rob will be doing those, and then everyone else can be there at his own if they want. And oh wait, and a vote counter, we will need at least 2 vote counters. I guess we could do one but probably the best thing to do would be like one virtual vote counter and one in the room. And we can pull those people out. So based on what we need virtually, do we have enough to actually be in the room at Ozona next week?
You mean, do we have enough people who would be there at Ozonas?
Yeah, it looks like contest master, 2 contestants, at least 1 timer, 1 vote counter. We would need a virtual sergeant. I'm probably about 6 people virtual minimum.
Yeah, well, that also depends on, who those people are and whether they're able to make it to Ozonas. So, that's kind of, it has to be to some extent, a matter of, whether those people make it in the end, whether they actually show up. So, I can adjust it to have, some people be online, according to what you were just saying, and then the remaining people be in person. But there's no way to know whether those people will end up being able to make it in person, and really the same thing for the people virtually, but
Yeah.
More so as far as if we're going to have it and have people and have guests come to Ozona, then in that case, we need to make sure that we have some people there.
So I guess that's the next question. Do we want to attempt a hybrid, or do we want to try to just do the contest virtually?
I would say with all the, you never know what's going to go on. Probably best do hybrid just in case.
Okay. All right. So we will do that then. I guess if you could let Rob, would it help if you knew who of the helpers would be virtual and who's gonna be in
I would
person?
say if you know that you are not going to be able to be there in person for sure at this point, please reach out to me, either through the WhatsApp group, email, text, whatever it might be. Just reach out to me and say, hey, I'm going to be in person, or I'm going to be only virtually, only on Zoom. And that way I can kind of adjust and tweak the lineup accordingly in that regard. So yeah, the sooner the better. Thanks, Lee.
Yeah, so like Mark, since you're not gonna have to compete for the evaluations, you could be hybrid, but we wouldn't necessarily include you in the contest. Because now you could evaluate, if you want to evaluate one of the contestants, or if we want to bring someone in just to have you practice evaluation, we can do that. Did you want to practice evaluation next week?
I'd kind of like to have a chance to practice that just before the contest.
Okay. All right. So we'll get something like that set up, and then, but you could be hybrid if you want. And then Justin and Karen, y'all will be virtual. and then we'll figure out everyone else will be virtual. And with that, the area contest is, of course, the 19th of February at 4 o'clock. So please, and that will be virtual, strictly virtual. And I believe that is all we have. So at this time, let's go ahead and get a vote counters
Can I-
report.
Can I say something real quickly?
Yeah.
Just a reminder, dues are coming up soon for the period of April to September. So actually, I'm gonna start collecting those and actually inputting those in Toastmasters now. So I will be sending out invoices here soon for the period of April to September.
Actually, let's just realized, let's have an officers meeting before you do that, because I want to
Okay.
make sure that we decide on the dues, because I know that that's somewhat dependent on the number of members that we have, but that's also might be dependent on if we're going to continue with hybrid meetings past March or not. If we're going to have that additional fee on top of what we're paying Ozona. But yes, please know that dues are coming due. Officers, do we want to try to have an officers meeting? All available on either Sunday or Monday evening at, say, 7 o'clock?
Not Sundays.
Not Sundays? Okay,
I can
Mondays?
do Sundays.
Yeah,
Okay.
me as well, not Sunday.
Okay. How about Monday?
Acceptable to me.
Yeah, I can make Monday.
Monday's
Yeah.
better. Monday, that would be with the 14th, Valentine's Day. Do
No,
you don't want to do it on Valentine's Day, do you?
no, it's not gonna be next, no,
It's a week before.
the 7th.
The
Let's do
7th.
the 7th, let's do 8 o'clock,
Oh, okay, the 7th, okay,
February 7th at 8 o'clock. Does that work for everybody?
okay.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and get a vote counters report.
And I'll mention one other thing before I do that. As
Oh, sure.
not as VP of membership, but as VP of PR, when I'm talking to guests, since we are getting close to renewal time already, I'm certainly mentioning to them that they are probably better off going for the 8-month option rather than the 2-month option. And some people are opting to do that because unless you really are just trying to figure out if it's something you do want to do, you're not going to get that much in 2 months, and you're going to get harangued for more money in a month anyway. So
That's
I'm
true.
I'm at least bringing it up, but I'm not saying they have to do it, just so that you're aware.
And if we've got anybody that's already prepaid, that's paid their 8 months ahead, then if we go up on the dues, we probably won't ask them for more
I would
money.
agree. I would say, in fact, that's one of the incentives. Grab it while you can, just in case.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody pays between now and I guess Monday, then they'll be locked in.
That's what I would
Monday
do.
we'll have an officers meeting and discuss it.
Sounds good. All right, so let's see. Vote counters report. First of all, thank you to everybody, including our guests for voting tonight. We had good participation of everybody for voting. We had 3 contests, all of which were contested. So our best speaker tonight is Lee King. Congratulations, Lee. Next, for table topics tonight, the best table topics is Tom Turiki. Congratulations, Tom. Best evaluator went to Mark Schroeder, me, so thank you so much. And finally, our best of the big 3 for tonight went to Rob Giles. Congratulations, Rob. That concludes the vote counters report.
All right. Well, everybody have a good night. Meeting is adjourned.
All right, as Zoom coordinator, just 1 or 2 things. Thank you so much to everybody for being willing to meet on Zoom. Since we had bad weather, I hope we gave you enough time. If we didn't give you enough time and notice, please let us know that. We gave you what we thought we could. And congratulations to our new members. Lisa, you're the only one here, and in absentia to Wasif as well. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording in 3, 2,